Where are we going?
Nowhere. I was trying to say hello. I'm Bethany.
Are you?
I was trying.
This is the worst start you've ever had.
Me?
Yeah.
You ruined it. I was doing just fine.
That
Tell the
is
people
my
who you
goal.
are.
This is my goal in life. Hello
We have
people.
gone
I'm
from-
Bethany.
We have gone from cold opens
That's where you say I'm Dalton.
But I'm not Dalton. I'm the only one that has a grasp on reality around here.
And this is Looking for the Middle.
Welcome. I really hope this is not your first time tuning into an episode.
I kind of hope it is.
Because, well, actually, I would say normally it's not like this.
It used to not be like this.
But it is.
And then I appeared.
And then Dalton appeared, and well, here we are, folks. No, we are glad you're here. Welcome to another episode. We have just jumped right into this whole cold open thing and embraced it. And so we are running with it. And thank you for being here. Would you stop dancing? Because
No.
I cannot focus.
I have country music still playing in my head. We've been sitting here playing random country songs.
We were listening to some that were rather random. I liked them, though.
I like random music. Let's do some housekeeping, shall we?
We shall. So, guys, if you don't follow us on social media, go follow us. LFTM_podcast on Instagram. Ladies, if you would like to hang out and make some friends on Facebook, we have a Facebook group that is a private community for you guys. It is LFTM community on Facebook. Number 3, go sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already. Comes out once a week. You can go to our website, lookingforthemiddle.com, and sign up for that there. There's 4?
Yeah, we rarely talk about Patreon.
Oh, and yeah, on Patreon. If you guys want to come hang out with us there, we release content every month to our Patreon subscribers. What that gets you is we will release all of our content that comes out here 2 days early to you on Patreon.
Ooh.
So that is one perk. And then depending on what tier you're on, there's either an exclusive couch cast for you every month or a couch cast and a full episode every month that you get to hang out with us. And it's a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to say it's more unfiltered because we're pretty unfiltered on here, but like,
What is a filter?
we're able to be a little more transparent just because there aren't so many people out there. So we kind of can, I don't know, just be a little more transparent and not as, well, some of us are less filtered, but you know.
Me.
So
100%
yeah,
me.
I'm glad you mentioned that. If you don't already or you haven't checked it out, do that. Patreon.com. Just look for Looking for the Middle podcast.
You did it. 4 for 4. Good job.
Yay me. Okay.
I think it's your turn to have a question of the day.
It is. Okay. I had one, but then we were doing the country music thing, so now I have a different one.
Ooh.
And you probably can't know this like absolutely for sure, but who would you say is your most listened to artist of all time on Spotify?
Of all time?
Of all time. Or like maybe currently if you can't really think of an all-time one.
Okay, of all time, it's probably Reliant K.
Okay.
Because I will go through a season where I nonstop listen to Reliant K.
Okay.
And then I'll go out of it for the rest of the year. And then I'll come back into
But
it.
it's enough in that
And
time
I will
frame.
jam. But I've been listening to it since Spotify started.
Okay.
So that it's always going to be Reliant
Yeah.
K. My current obsession, Larry Fleet. Country
Okay.
music.
Okay.
I mean, he's not a Christian artist.
That's okay.
But
Neither
he's
of mine
got
are.
some great music that's out there, not as well known, even though he started doing some stuff with Morgan Wallen.
Okay.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So Larry Fleet would be my current, and
Okay.
Reliant K
All time.
for my 2000s people. That's our stuff right there. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, goodness.
And if you don't, go listen. Especially Sadie Hawkins Dance. Do you know Sadie Hawkins Dance?
Yes, I do. Mine all time is probably Backstreet Boys.
That song is just atrocious.
I know.
Did you go back and listen as an adult and go,
yeah.
what was I listening to?
I went to a Backstreet Boys concert like 3 years ago. It was so much fun.
Might have been there with my sister.
So that's my all-time one probably. Current one is Luke Combs. His new CD just came out a couple weeks ago. And
Did you say CD?
Yeah, I did. I'm dating myself.
You are really dating yourself. His new album came out.
Yeah, that too. I'm sure there's CDs of it somewhere.
Yeah, at probably Target and Walmart, and nobody buys them unless you have a
I didn't buy CDs even when CDs were a thing.
pre-2005 car.
No.
Was that an aux cord?
No. My car does have a CD player, though. I discovered this the other day.
I don't even know if mine
Actually,
does.
I've had my car for like a year right now, and I just discovered that. I'm like, oh my word, there's actually a CD player here.
That's going to be the only thing I think about for the next 45 minutes is,
know.
does my car have a CD player? I don't think it does.
I purchased a CD it has been years and years and years.
People always ask me if I can play a musical instrument, and I tell them I'm fluent in Spotify. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Go. No, so that Luke Combs' new album came out a couple weeks ago.
Look, my burn's getting better.
Oh, and we have derailed. Okay.
It is.
It is. I'm so glad.
I burned myself on a steamer.
I'll say, tell us how. A clothes steamer.
So, Saturday night...
Are you steaming your shirt with it on you?
No, I was
really
not.
What happened?
That is not what happened.
I thought about that after you told me yesterday.
That is not what happened. Even though that is something I would probably do,
totally
it's not
is.
what happened.
Okay.
Because I would have been covered in burns.
No, you would have done it once and
So
realized.
I was using a cheap clothes steamer, not one of the nice ones, just a cheapie. And it can be a little aggressive sometimes. So I was steaming clothes. My cousin was talking to me, and I turned my head to look at him, and I thought I was going towards the shirt, and instead I went towards my arm, and it pressed right on. I was wearing a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Luckily, because it could have been way worse.
Yeah, that could have been really bad then.
But I hit my arm and just instantly ripped it back. I thought, man, that really hurt. I hope it doesn't get worse. So I don't know what you're supposed to put on a burn. I don't really do this very often, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So I put, all I had was cold water and then some ice and then aloe vera.
That's what I would have done. Put some aloe on it. Yeah.
It feels better now.
Good job. Way to be an adult.
The best part is I was preaching yesterday, and every few minutes I would accidentally hit my arm, and it was very painful.
Oops.
Okay, well, that's so far away from our question of the day.
Okay.
It's not even funny. So,
Okay.
Seamless transition.
Okay, let's rein it in.
Stupid burns to our topic of the day. Now, I'm actually going to flip script on you a little bit.
Oh, dear.
We're going to talk about something completely... No, I'm just kidding. Just put the panic in your eyes. You've been doing this show for how many seasons now?
10.
10. And one of the things that you have consistently talked about on this show is how overcomplicated dating is. We mention it all the time. It's not that complicated. And we even talked about that last season of which you informed me because this conversation sounded really familiar. It's not that complicated. We overcomplicate things. And we talked about why it's complicated. But we really didn't talk about okay, we know it's complicated. How do we simplify this?
Yes.
So that's kind of the topic that we want to approach today is how do we simplify the thing that has been way overcomplicated and should not be as complicated as it is. You're the one that's done a lot more homework on this, so I will let you get the ball rolling with that. How do we simplify dating? And go.
Okay. I think we've got several main points here we'll get to. The first one, though, is just a matter of being just straightforward about what you're thinking.
About what you're thinking?
I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking right now.
Fair enough.
Yes. I think we get I don't know. There's a lot of games people play when it comes to dating. And so I think we get caught up in the world's dating games of like, okay.
Such as?
Well, it goes all the way back to like, oh, okay, we went on a date. Well, now wait 3 days to call a girl. And I'm really crazy about her. And she really liked me. And we had a great time. But I'm going to wait 3 days because that's what you're supposed to do. Which, with texting being so prevalent now, I don't think that's as common of a thing anymore. But it's like, okay, well, I had a good time. What are you making a face?
I think it's more common.
Okay, really? Well, I mean, not the wait 3 days and call her. It's like, okay, should I text him when we get done and be like, oh, I had a good time, thanks. Should I wait till tomorrow? Is he going to text me? Who's going to, like...
That's why I'm saying it's more common.
I meant the very specifics of calling someone.
Oh, okay.
I didn't make that clear. I agree with you. It's almost like it's changed and morphed and expanded.
Yeah, because I was sitting here thinking of like the 50s and the 60s that you call a girl's house and you want to go steady and you're there.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
No, we do not. Well, and I was thinking too, I think texting is a huge factor in all of this of why it's so complicated.
How so?
Because as soon as you start dating someone, there's suddenly almost this expectation that you're going to, like, in a lot of ways, communicate all the time now. So here's this guy I just started dating. And what do? You text all day. So you have to come up with funny, witty things to say all day long because you're trying to impress this person. And I think it's added a layer of stress and complication to a lot of things. So I actually like it when maybe you talk on the phone more, you see each other in person more.
We might have to...
not the pressure of texting all the time, usually.
Side note here.
Yeah.
We might have to talk about that on a Couchcast or something.
Okay.
Because now you've got my wheels spinning. I mean, and it's true. Because when you start dating, you start texting a lot, and then you start communicating about every little thing. And what do you find when you're in person? We've already talked about everything.
Exactly. I think it makes... Well, and I think... So, I mean, you have that. You've got dating apps and online dating. So, not only is it... We're talking all of the time, this person I just met, quote unquote met, but actually I haven't met them. And so then there's this like, oh, we've talked all the time. And then you meet in person for the first time. And you're like, wait a second, I've been talking a ton. So, I mean, sometimes it's totally fine. I'm just saying it may add a layer of complication that you have to navigate. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it.
You're really talking about two different things here.
Okay.
Or you started with one thing.
I
and
just
we
ran with it.
No, it's fine because it brings up really good points that I think we need to talk about. But I think if I had to bring in the two different things you're talking about. One is learning to appropriately communicate the right things.
Yes.
And the other one, seemingly, that you're hinting at is over-communicating.
Yes.
So let's stick for a moment with the learning to communicate the right things,
okay.
and then you can come back to the over-communication later. When you say learning to communicate the right things, what are you meaning?
I think texting has its place. But I think if texting is your primary means of communication to where you're like diving into someone's deep life history and life story via text and not the actual person, it's different because texting is so curated sometimes. Mm-hmm. When in that sense, like if you're just chit-chatting back and forth, it's not. You're just talking. But like if you're having these deep conversations that way, you can like curate exactly what you want to say. They can too. And it's... Well, and there's no tone involved to it. I just think you're robbing of getting to know the person a little bit over text. So, like, have a phone conversation and let them tell you their life story, not texting all of it.
You sound like an old person.
Man.
I'm kidding.
Back in my day.
Way back in my day, we didn't have texting. Back
in my day, we had to pay per text, is where I'm from.
Back when color TV was invented. No, it is interesting, and you're still on number 2 rather than on number 1 on the over-communication point. But that's okay. Because,
well, tell me what you think then.
Well, since we're on it, let's just stick with over-communication thing there. Because I do think... we are in a society that is all about instant gratification. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes with communication as well.
Yeah.
So you get into a relationship with someone, or you're not even in a relationship yet. I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
Where you start to talk to a person and get to know them, and you're in that talking stage, and you're communicating constantly.
Right.
To the point in which you're covering everything through text or... if you have Snapchat, I'm not going to get on a rant through the Snappity chat that I don't like very much, but that's a me thing.
I'm too old to have had a Snapchat.
No comment. Oversharing, and people start to formulate exactly who you are through a text message that doesn't convey emotions, doesn't actually convey facial expressions, body language, and all of that.
Exactly.
So you formulate in your head, this is this type of person, and then you meet them, and it's not exactly what you had envisioned. So I do think the constant communication has created that complication to where you create a person that you think they are versus what they actually are can be two different things. Yeah. And then you're stuck in a really hard spot. So I think over-communication on that point is a problem.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, over-communication also complicates in terms of when you're actually physically in person knowing what to talk about because you've, good morning, how are you? How was your day? What are you up to?
Yeah.
Well, this happened and this happened and this happened. And then you're having coffee later and you're like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm a proponent of whether it's conventional or from an online scenario, meet in person as soon as possible.
Yes.
Just for that very reason. It gets dicey otherwise sometimes. Now, I mean, it can be fine, but I think, the longer you elongate that, because I've talked to girls who are like, well, there's kind of some distance involved, so we've been like texting and messaging. We talk on the phone some for 6 months, and I'm like, no. Like, I know there's distance involved, but if it's so much of a distance that you have to go that long before you've actually met this person, that might be too much of a distance. Like, it's just too, I'm talking, a few weeks, a month.
It's not a hard and fast rule.
No, it's not.
That's a Bethany hard and fast rule. Because I know someone right now that's in that situation.
Sure.
And there have to be a lot of ground rules in place. There has to be a lot of boundaries and clear communication, which we're about to get into.
Yes. I'm not saying this is a right versus wrong issue.
I know, but sometimes we get in trouble for making a statement.
We do.
Saying, but it worked for me.
It's true. Oh, yes. I'm talking about all this from the standpoint of complicated. It makes it more difficult. Even if it works out wonderfully, there are complications involved that can be very worth working through. But yes, as a general rule, sooner rather than later, I think is better.
So that's on the side of over communication.
Yeah.
And I would be interested in having another conversation at some point about getting to know someone in person sooner rather than later, because I was sitting here thinking the amount of complications that introduces. It really is interesting, because if you meet a person and then you start to communicate a lot, at least their mannerisms, the way that they communicate, the way that they engage, so you can see what they're saying. Versus if it's the other way around, and you talk a lot through text and other forms of social media and platforms like that, you're creating this visualization of this person, and then when you meet them, you don't have the context for who they are already, so you're having to break a lot of things that are already in your mind that you envision. That's interesting.
And what you're building in your mind right there, which we can talk about more later, you're talking about you're building this person in your mind of who they are. It's yourself. Because all you're saying is, well, if I had said that, here's what I would have meant. If I texted that, here's how it would have been. And so basically you're just creating this perfect version of you in your head.
So here's what we've said. These are all of the complications. So if that's the complication, how do you simplify it? Well, I think that your rule does apply well here, of meet as fast as humanly possible.
Which looks different depending on the scenario.
Now, especially for the ladies' angle of this, do so in a safe and appropriate manner.
Absolutely.
So if you're getting to know a guy, don't just as soon as, if you online platform, you match with him, like,
hey,
let's go get coffee. Man, hold the phone here.
Yeah.
I actually am a proponent of a little bit of social media stalking. I think that is A-okay in my opinion. You have to be cautious with it, but you need to know a few things about this person.
I do enough. We've talked about
We'll call it research.
I was going to say I do it for verification purposes.
Social media research. I have coined a new phrase. I just trademarked that.
There is a thin line between that and stalking. I am fine with findings. I like to find people on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And I just want to make sure they're who they have said they are. Whatever that looks like. I am not a proponent of ending up in 2017 on their profile because you have scrolled all the way back.
Social media research.
If it's to a place where if you accidentally liked something, you would have to delete your entire online presence because it would be so mortifying. That's not okay.
There have been a couple of times that I've gotten random likes deep in my profile. I'm like, I'm not talking to that person.
Yeah, exactly. So don't go there, but enough to where you're like, okay, this person exists. They seem to work where they say they do. They have friends. They're a real person.
So ladies, do a little bit of research and be as safe as possible, but it does bring to the principle, get to know a person as soon as safely possible, so that you can start to formulate and understand who this person is, their mannerisms, how they interact with you. Do you mesh well? Which, not really the point of this, but it is helpful to know if you do that, you're going to figure out a lot sooner whether or not this thing's going to work than you would if you text and communicate through the phone for months at a time. Yeah. And then you arrive there and like, well, I just wasted 4 months of my life.
Well, and I will say for phone calls and FaceTime go a really long way with that too. Yeah. I mean, it's like a progression. It's not in person, but it's also not texting. But I think just being able to talk to someone, hear their voice, and then FaceTime being like, hey, you're not in person, but you get a feel for who that person is, that goes a long way too. So
And with the communication piece that we've been talking about, learn to ask good questions that you can get a better read on how they're going to react to that. Yeah. So don't just drop a bomb on what's your view of salvation on the first phone call. Now, you can get there in a conversation somehow, some way, but know good questions that might stump them. Sure. Or slow them down for just a second, where you can tell it's not some sort of index card they pulled out of their pocket and said, on this date, I have to say this.
Right. Well, and one thing I will say from a practical standpoint, speaking to the ladies on that particular thing, a lot of times when you ask a guy a question like that, maybe he's not expecting it, maybe it needs a little more thought. Guys are going to, at least in my experience, you can correct me if I'm wrong, guys are going to tend to take a minute, kind of like, okay, process the question, formulate a bit of a response, and then respond. And our temptation is to ask that question, give it like 2 seconds, and if he's not talking, then it's awkward. And so then we just rush through and spew everything we think about the answer to that question, which then makes it really easy for him to say, oh yeah, me too. Even if maybe he doesn't, it's not like a deceptive thing necessarily, but you're not actually getting his answer to that question. And so ask good open-ended questions, let it sit for a minute, let him formulate a response and actually answer your question without just bulldozing through and saying, here, let me tell you my answer.
I completely agree with that. And my encouragement on the guy's side of it is learn filler words. So if she asks you a really thought-provoking question, typically I'll respond with, that's a really good question. Let me think about that for a moment.
That goes a long way.
So she understands I'm sitting here thinking, she hasn't thrown me for a loop, and I don't think that's a stupid question. I just need to think about it for a moment. And sometimes I'll even, because for me, the way that my brain works, I have to look at if it's a deep question, I have to look at something that's not moving so that I can sit there and formulate a response. So I'll even say, give me a second. I have this weird thing where I have to just look at something for a second.
He does. It's kind of odd.
I don't know why that is, but I'll tell him.
You're really good at telling people.
I will tell people that's why I have to do this. So I think on the guy's side of it, if they ask a great question, clearly communicate. It's a great question, but I want to think about it and give you a good response. You're not going to look dumb in that moment. You're not going to look like you have a short wit. That's fine. Yeah. Which, seamless transition. Since we're talking about the over-communication side, knowing how to appropriately communicate is another way to simplify things. Yes. Because you mentioned at the very beginning, the dating games that we play at the very beginning. Does he like me? Right. Does she like me? If I say this, are they going to say this? Should I text them at this time versus this time? Have we been talking long enough for me to start sending good morning texts and good night texts? There's so much that is floating out there that you all you're thinking about all day is what's going to happen if I do this, and you're playing chess when you should be playing checkers.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And you're saying, okay, well, I'll say this, and then they can say that, and then I'll like you're planning it 3 or 4 texts ahead.
You're formulating a conversation.
And then when they don't respond, how that person, remember the you've created in your head, when they don't respond how you would have in that scenario, you've built an expectation that's going to be disappointing, and then you might be kind of frustrated with this person, when in reality, how are they going to know about this imaginary conversation you had in your head? And round you go. So you're rolling.
Clear communication actually simplifies things. I'll give you an example. Since we're talking about dating and the mental games that we play and the back and forths. One of the things that I will say, because I used to be the person that would text a lot back and forth all day, and I'm just not anymore. I might text you 1 or 2 times, and that's going to be all you get.
Yeah.
Because I'm busy during the day. My mental focus needs to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm discounting you. It's just I want to make sure that I'm honoring the Lord and how I'm spending my time. And sometimes that means focusing on something else rather than sending a text to you. Mm-hmm. I'll say that.
Yes.
Like, look, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not leaving you hanging. I'm just really busy today. These are the things that I'm working on, and I try and stay away from my phone so I can focus on that. I will respond. I've seen this, and I will respond as soon as I can. That actually goes a long way for you. For someone to say that then takes the pressure off. So that, because I think that the girl side of this, it's the worst. When a girl texts a guy back, and he doesn't respond for hours, what are you doing in that moment?
Oh, he doesn't like me.
Exactly.
Oh, it's a
You're sitting there
conclusion.
buzzing through your head. He doesn't like me. This is going on. He started talking to someone else. He's interested in someone else. He's not that interested in me.
I assume he's trying to figure out how to tell me he doesn't want to talk to me anymore.
He's trying to get out of the situation, whatever it is. You go to the immediate extreme.
Oh, immediate.
That's how it happens every single time. I can almost 100% guarantee every single woman has done this at some point in their lives.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I'd have no argument.
And guys will do it too. It's just not at the 100% that I am declaring in this moment. So, men, help them out.
Yeah.
Don't allow them to go to the worst possible extreme. If you just let them know, this is what's going on, this is the type of communicator that I am, there's a lot more peace and comfort in that.
100%. Oh, it totally is. And that's where I'm saying, be straightforward of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, at a pace appropriate level.
Yes, don't propose on the first date.
No, but like, I don't know. There's this, girls are going, oh, does he like me? I don't know. Guys are like, I really like her, but I don't want to tell her because I don't want to come on too strong. I'm like, tell a girl, I really enjoyed our date the other day. I would love to do that again.
And this is where things get the most complicated, because the first few dates, you're especially in the unknown, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're in the unknown. After you've been dating for a little bit of time and you've been talking a lot, I think this is more the responsibility of guys, though. Ladies, if you want to say it. Of, look, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, and I like you.
Yeah.
And I'd like to continue to get to know you in a relationship. I know that's hard and that's scary, but it immediately takes out of the framework of possibilities in her mind of, does he like me?
Yeah.
He just said it.
Right. Well, and you go, you're like, well, if I knew where we were, then I would say this, or I'd ask about that, or da-da-da, but I don't really know. So we're not saying everything's easy. We're not saying the process for simplifying. I cannot talk. I was going to say simplification and simplifying and.
You just kind of had a Kevin from The Office.
I absolutely did.
Wow.
Oh, I was saying the other day, Kevin's one of my favorite, secondary.
No wonder.
Characters. So, anyway, simplifying doesn't necessarily mean everything's easy. It just makes the process smoother. And I think that is one that will go a very long way.
Well, you're right. And the reason why I go, people aren't going to like what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Simplifying a relationship is actually harder.
It is true.
Not simplifying and making something overly complicated is actually easier. It's easier not to communicate.
Yes.
It's easier to not have to put myself in an uncomfortable situation. It's harder to do those things. But in the long run, it makes your life so much better.
It is. It's easier because you may tell me I'm being too harsh. I don't know. It's easier because it's selfish.
Yep.
And I'm calling myself out. This is not Bethany preaching at anyone. It's easier because it's selfish, because it says I'm going to make this easier for myself, and I don't care if that other person is confused and frustrated and whatever else. I'm putting the burden on them. I want it to be easier for me, and that's what you end up with. And I think we have a very self-focused dating culture in our country.
So that's the selfish side of the ladies, and so I can concur from the men's side. It's also selfish because I've done this before, and where I really just need to know for certain before I put myself out there, because it's my job to put myself out there. but I'm afraid and I'm scared of what she's going to say, and I might get hurt because I'm really starting to become attached, especially me. I get attached easily. I'm starting to become attached, but I'm afraid that she's not going to, and so I'm just going to back off until I get all the clues that I need. That's selfish too.
It is, yeah. Well, and I think we, especially like as girls, we can couch that selfishness or nervousness or whatever. We hide behind, oh, well, biblical gender roles, like he should be the one leading, he should be the one initiating, he should be whatever. So I'm going to be coy and aloof and not put myself out there because that's his job. And if he really cared about me and he was a strong leader, he would just fight through all of that, which I think we hide behind.
That's so unfair, though.
I am not saying it's right at all. I know.
Because what you're saying is this guy has to put all of the effort in. This guy has to do all of the pursuing. This guy has to put himself out there, and you're just out there receiving and not reciprocating. So this poor man who is putting his time, energy, and money into this is sitting there feeling like, well, I'm working really hard for this and nothing's coming back. Why would I ever want to go down the road with this person?
Exactly.
Girls are sitting there when he dumps them or says, I'm just not that interested, saying, well, he was a jerk.
Exactly.
It's so unfair.
I know. That's the point I'm making, is that we try to spiritualize it when in reality you're just scared and you're unsure and whatever. And so you make it the other person's quote unquote fault, because then when it blows, there's a defense mechanism involved, because when it goes south, you're like, see, I knew it. All guys are like that. It's not okay. I'm just saying, don't do that.
It's self-centered and unloving.
It is. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
We're
getting off the
our soapbox.
Yeah.
It's the first time in a while that the two of us have gotten on the exact same soapbox.
That's true.
Back to the communication piece of it, because that's been the big issue that we've been tackling so far for a long period of time.
Well, and I think that is the key to simplify. Like, we're hanging out on this one for so long because I really think it is the key to simplifying dating is clear, consistent communication. And kind of to your point, even about your communication, communicate about how you communicate.
Yeah.
That's so important.
So that they can pick up on the cues and clues and know and understand you better, so that you're not playing the mental games that we all know we play. You can admit it, listener. You play mental games. We need to communicate with how we communicate, and we need to know what to communicate. Clarity is kindness.
Absolutely.
I heard that from someone else. I don't remember who it was, but it is a great thing to say. Clarity really is kindness, because it alleviates the complications and the pressures that we put on this.
Yeah.
So that's one particular burden.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about another one, but I'm going to flip it to later on, because I want to come to the church for a second. Okay. Because one of the things that we have identified as being a contributor, I don't know if it's necessarily the key contributor. I think what we just talked about is, but it's a contributor, is the pressure that the church puts on single people, those that are trying to get into a relationship. In terms of, and I'll tell you from my perspective, the things that I'm faced with, and if any of our church people are listening, I love you. Genuinely do. I'm not calling you out on things. Well, okay, maybe a little bit. I love you. Just remember this. Yeah. Remember the love. What they'll say is, I'm praying that you'll find someone, and if I talk about someone, I'm praying that it works out so you'll be out of this season of singleness, and I really hope you'll find someone like I've found so that you can be this or do this or have this. And it's all well-intentioned. That's what I want to stress. There's nothing malicious about it. It's all well-intentioned. But what that puts on me is this person's praying for me. This person's hoping for me. This person's really hoping that it works out so that they can be right about this certain situation. And so I've got to do everything in my power to make it work, to make it happen. So I am just squashed with the pressure. It's one of the biggest distractions that I have. So I bring that pressure into the relationship, and I'm putting that pressure on the other person so I can make it work out. Because if not, my church is going to have a field day with me.
Well, and I think that's something that I deal with too, and I think it's heightened for both of us. The church,
we work in ministry.
Because we work at the church. I think though, if you're listening and you're like, "Well, my church isn't like that," okay, take out church and put family there.
Ooh.
You know, like maybe your church isn't that involved, but Great Aunt Susie sure is. You know,
this is one of side note for my family. My immediate family is the polar opposite.
Mine is too.
I will talk about these things. My mom's like, just be patient.
Yeah.
The Lord has His timing, and you have your timing, and your timing's always wrong. So why don't you wait on His?
Just chill.
And my mom's the best. My dad and my sister and my brother-in-law, they all do the exact same thing. They're phenomenal in this. But there are a lot of families that are out there. My extended family does it. Of where I just hope you'll find someone. And what drives me up a wall, church and family does this. This is a freebie for you. Is when they say, I'm really hoping you find someone this year. You ever heard that?
Nothing like a good deadline to motivate you.
I know. Shut up. Stop it.
That's
but
funny.
it brings undue pressure into the situation. So that's the complication, and we could spend way more time on that. How do we simplify it? What are your thoughts?
Okay, I struggle with this one because I don't know necessarily. Because this is something where people, however well-intentioned they may be, and I'm not thinking of anyone specific, history, they're very quick to offer their thoughts and offer their input in a way that's different than if you were married. They wouldn't say they wouldn't talk about your relationship and your relationship status the same way, or feel the freedom to interject their thoughts as much.
Well, I'm going to push back on that.
Okay.
Because church people are going to interject on anything. When you get married and you're in the first years of your marriage, they're going to talk about what you should be doing.
Okay.
And when you have kids, this is how we raised our kids.
Okay.
It's always going to happen.
Okay. Fair. I'll give you that.
I've lived it.
Okay.
But
I don't know. It is well intentioned, so you just want to say, "Oh, thanks," and move on. But at the same time, like, where's the line of maybe not pushing back? That's too combative sounding. But where's the line of saying, "Hey, that's not helpful," in a really kind way? I don't know. And
I think it depends on what the comment that's made.
Yeah.
So when someone comes up to me and says, I've been praying for you.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you'll find a God-fearing wife one day. I actually appreciate that. That's really kind.
Yeah.
Now, if they do it every single time I see them, we're getting into different territory here. But if they say that, that's really, really kind of them. And so I'll say, thank you. I really appreciate that so much. But I'll also mention, I'm really thankful for the season that the Lord has placed me in. And I'll tell them why.
Yeah.
For the opportunities that it's given me, the ability to put more time and focus into ministry or focus into other people.
Yeah.
Or the ability to just go live a life. Where I was telling Bethany before we started recording, I get to go do things that married people wouldn't necessarily do. Like a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple weeks ago, might have been a little over a month ago, I drove 3 hours up to South Carolina one afternoon to go hang out with some friends that were visiting other friends from Kentucky. And then I drove 3 hours back and didn't get home until 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted to see them.
Because you could.
It was only to spend a few hours with them, but it was worth it. I just picked up and went. Here's another example. I was up at my aunt and uncle's house, which is 45 minutes away from here. Not really that far.
Yeah.
But I was having a Bible study with some family members, and it got a little bit late. It was about 10 o'clock, and I said, I really just don't want to drive home right now. So I didn't. I had clothes at their house, so I just slept at their house. And then I drove home the next day. It's things like that I really enjoy. So I'll tell people I'm really thankful for this season that the Lord has placed me in. And I'll tell you, for the first time in a very long time, I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing,
Such
a great place to be in.
Yeah.
Because I know you told me a lot about, I'll go to the movies and I don't feel bad about it. I just go watch a movie by myself. I'm not going to do that.
It's okay.
I don't like doing that.
That's fine.
But I'll go do the things that I just mentioned.
Exactly.
Because that's me. I'm a traveler and a get up and goer, so I'm just going to go do that.
Yep.
Next month, I'm probably going to make a random trip to Nashville to go see some friends because I can do that.
Yep. I'm going to take a random trip to London.
With some friends.
Because I can.
Because you can.
I'm not going by myself, don't worry.
But that's not really the point of that.
No.
The point of it is to say, I think it's okay in those moments.
That's a good way of putting it.
Thank you so much. I'm really thankful for your prayers and your concern there. And I do pray that the Lord, if you feel that the Lord has not gifted you with singleness, it is okay to say, and I'm praying that the Lord would one day open that door and make it a possibility. And I'm also really enjoying this season of life.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for where the Lord has placed me and what God is doing. That disarms people pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of kind of offering maybe a differing viewpoint, or it kind of makes people realize how what they say sounds a little bit.
Remind them of truth.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not, oh, why did you say that, or I wish you would say that differently. It's, well, let me tell you about all the good things.
Oh, and Paul was thankful for it.
Yeah, and so that's a really good way of doing that is, it just it'll make people think, oh, well, yeah, that's true. Maybe,
now, I do think there are times, like you were saying, I wanted to say clap back at people.
Well, kindly clap back.
To respond
a
little more strongly and sternly when people say things that are just unhelpful. So when they make comments that they might think are well-intentioned that are demeaning.
Yeah.
So I just wish you weren't in this season, and I'm praying you find someone so you can get out of this season of singleness. We treat it like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, you're like, I'm doing okay.
This season is a gift from the Lord. How are you going to use it? Yeah. What is the Lord doing in this season to make you more like Jesus?
Yeah.
So that is a good thing. And sometimes you have to respond and say, look, I appreciate your comment, but it was unhelpful.
Yeah.
Because the Lord is still sovereign over this season, isn't he? And they will respond hopefully with,
yeah, you're right.
So God is working through this. Yeah. And it's not a bad season. It's not a negative thing. I'm not cursed. I'm actually really appreciative.
With you. Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate your heart, but maybe next time think in this way. It's not a bad thing to respond graciously and lovingly a little bit stronger.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's the response thing.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your thoughts of the other side of what we talked about, of when people come up to you and the pressures that you face at church. Learning to, I am rubber, you are glue, whatever you say is going to bounce off me and stick to you. How do you just deflect and not internalize?
I just kind of honestly let it be in one ear and out the other. I don't dwell on it, because then we've said several times, it's very well intentioned. And so if you dwell on it, and I have to be really careful too, it's like, and I don't know if this has happened for you more over the last couple of years now of doing this, of like, a lot of times with different dating scenarios, I have thought more about that specific scenario than anyone I know, because I've done an entire episode on it, or we've talked about this, or we've talked about that, to where I have thought through 5 different points of what someone could mean or how it could be, and they don't. And so I have to kind of like just know Susie Q didn't mean anything by that, and I'm not going to then assume all of these motives that weren't there.
You know good and well I'm not doing that. You want to know why you know good and well I'm not doing that? Because I never remember what I say. Seriously. Y'all, there are people that come up to me and go, I really like this point that you made, or I didn't like this point that you made, or why did you say that, or I laughed a lot when you said that. And, what are you talking about? I have no idea what I said after I said it.
In the moment. In the present.
I am. And that's the thing. Certain people that tell me I talk too much also made the comment the other day that I said something good, which I appreciate. I don't remember what I said, and that's in the moment funny. I didn't know why I said it. It's the Lord working and improve me, people.
No, but okay, so you don't do that. I remember some better. But I really think we do have to just let it go in one ear and out the other, and learn, I don't know, just not let the words have that much effect on us, and to where you're just stewing over it, and then you're convincing yourself, I guess I am miserable. I guess there is something wrong with me. Poor me. I got to get out of this horrible situation.
So people don't think that I'm acting like I'm holier than thou in this situation. I don't do it like you're talking about. Yeah. I do when I'm preaching.
Oh.
If people give me negative comments or negative criticism, I could have 100 positive comments and 1 negative criticism. The voice of the critic is always louder.
Sure.
So when I walk off stage, if someone gives me any type of criticism or says, I really didn't like this point, or I didn't like what you did here, or maybe you should have done this better.
Right.
It hits me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
and it hurts. I will sit there the rest of the day. Like, you have completely just ruined my day. And that's a me problem. It's also it's sometimes a you problem, but it's a me problem because I'm allowing that to affect me and affect my joy in the Lord and what the Lord has done through me. So I do it just in a different scenario, but the same thing applies.
It does.
How do we deflect? For you, it's you've learned the skill of going one ear and out the other.
Don't listen to people.
You're the worst. I think that is a helpful skill and a helpful approach. To be able to hear something and know they didn't mean anything by it, poof, there it's gone.
Yeah.
I'm so clueless sometimes that's a reality just because I'm clueless and I have no idea what you're saying to me. I haven't learned that skill with preaching. Yeah. And I don't know how to translate it. So I think it's more complicated and a little bit stickier. Yeah. Because when you're in a community and when you're in a church, the comments that other people make, I think they just mean more. Because that's your church family.
Again, if you put family and like if it's not your church, if it's your extended family or whatever, well, yeah, they're the people that matter to you. That it is. You want to. I think there's a people pleasing element. You want to please them.
100% is pleasing people.
And we know I'm a people pleaser, and so I think there's even, if you want to get deeper with it, for me, I think there's a little bit of a defense mechanism, because trust me, like when you're talking about like, oh, well, I don't want to be single anymore, or, oh, I don't whatever, like it's top of mind for me. I get it. So as soon as someone is like pointing that out, like they kind of point out this raw spot that's already there, if you're like, oh, no, it's no big deal, I'm fine, then you don't have to actually think about it. So there's a little bit of a defense mechanism there, I think, too.
This is something that literally just came in my brain.
Which means you're not going to remember it tomorrow.
Well, I might remember this one because it's scripture. When it's the Bible, I'm going to remember it most of the time. But what you were thinking about, it does mean more. If you even if you place family in there instead of church. Yeah. I'm mixing the two right now. It means more. And when people say things, positive, negative, it's just going to hit us a little bit harder. And we're going to sit there and say, why did they say that? And we're going to allow it to put some undue pressure on us. 1 Corinthians 13. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. The reason I bring that up is our love for our family or our brothers and sisters in Christ should lead us to, when they make a comment, hoping and enduring all things and believing good things about what they're saying. It was well-intentioned, and I'm going to receive it in kind and in turn based upon my love for them and the love that Christ has shown me. So I think that's one of the more helpful things. Is to see them through the love of Christ that you have for them. Yeah. I think is a big part of it. So that's one end of the church pressures. But the danger that it presents is you bring that into the relationship. I don't know. This is more for us. Yeah. When you get into a relationship, do you tell people the amount of people that try and get involved? No. Okay, I was curious.
No. I learned that the hard way. Go ahead.
Hold on. We're going at two different angles because that's where you're going. We'll come to that in just a second. What I'm saying is asking? The significant other. Do you tell them, hey, look, I work in a church and there's a lot of people that are very interested. And so
I'm very...
You'll shepherd people away from that. When I say shepherding, don't come at me and saying what you think I'm saying. I'm just meaning you'll guide them away from them.
Yes. I'm slow. Like, I don't know. Some people...
You're slow?
Well, that too. But no, I'm slow to bring someone to church.
Ooh, yeah.
And that is something that has been a long-standing thing for me because I tell people, I'm like, look, you come to my church, my whole family goes here. So you meet my entire family. All my friends are here. All my friends.
That's true.
I work here, so it's work and coworkers and bosses and everyone else. Not to mention every little old lady at the church who's very invested in my dating life. All in a span of about 45 minutes. That's a lot.
So you do tell the significant other, the person of interest.
It's not you.
I haven't really done that.
It's not you, but I like...
Basically warning them.
Yeah.
Now... That's interesting. Probably need to start doing that, warning people. The other end of it, what you were hinting at, and I had called it too many cooks in the kitchen, is telling too many people in the church.
Yes.
And so, how are we doing on time, by the way?
Oh, we're
going long and strong? Okay, because we're
50 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to have to do the other thing later.
That's fine.
Because I think this is a great place to end. One of your catchphrases on the show, and I love it, love it, is date in community. You made the brilliant comment, define your community.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I'm saying, like, you want to date in community. You need people around you who can speak into your dating life and whose guidance you will follow. That does not mean everyone you know. And it doesn't mean everyone who wants to have input into that. And I think you do have to define your community well of the people whose input you want and care about. Those are the people who need to know what's going on.
Who gets to know and who doesn't need to know.
Right. And those, like, your community, those are the people who need to know every time there's a new person. Hey, there's this new guy. I'm getting to know him. We're talking, and they're involved from the get-go. I have a well-defined community now. It was a little more ambiguous in times past. And everyone would ask, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm talking to this guy. There's a new guy. Or there's what? And everyone was like serious. It's like, hey, we're talking. And then it didn't work out. And so then you have to go back. Okay, never mind. And it gets exhausting.
Currently living that.
Right? And it's like, ugh, because you're having to tell the same story, the same thing over and over and over. And I don't know about you, but I also learned that I may tell, let's say 3 people, just pick a random number, 3 people at the church about, hey, there's this new guy that I'm getting to know. And that's fine. I told the 3 of them. But then when it came time, it hadn't worked out. And you go back to tell the people, hey, it didn't work out. 3 had suddenly become 15. And so now, suddenly lots of people knew things that I hadn't told them. And that's just, so I'm very tight-knit. I keep things close until something is pretty serious now.
Yeah, that's something I'm having to learn right now.
Yeah.
Because I've made the mistakes that Bethany is talking about how she doesn't do that anymore. I think it really is important to define who needs to know more on the aspect of so that they can help walk through this with me, to encourage me, offer me accountability and wisdom and guidance.
Yeah.
And who doesn't need to know? Who would be unhelpful in this situation to know? Or it's not even necessarily unhelpful.
Yeah.
They just don't need to know right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to be, how's it going, how's it going, how's it going, how's it going, until I know more.
Right. Yeah, until I have an answer for them.
Yeah, genuinely, this has been something that's helpful for me to think through that I hadn't thought through until we almost push record. Define that community well. Because I think that will alleviate a lot of the pressure as well.
Absolutely
Because then
will.
you don't have all of these people knowing, like, I've got to make this work, so I make everyone happy.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, now that I think about it, you're asking about how do you let things just go in one ear and out the other and kind of like disregard some of those comments. Kind of thinking through it now, this is one thing that has helped me with that immensely, is that I know, not that I don't care if people are praying for me, like that's not what I mean, but like I have my people whose input I want and need on these things. And I'm not just disregarding everyone else, but if someone who's not in that group has stuff to say, it's easier to just let it go because I don't feel the obligation to follow their advice, to have to do whatever they say, to have to do anything. I have my people. I have that community defined. And so I don't have to worry about all the other stuff.
That might start becoming my business line because in where I'm at in life right now, in a position of quote unquote leadership, is everyone feels like they need to have input. So they'll ask me, and sometimes I just get so irritated over, and this is a bad thing on my part, where they'll just over and over again, hope you find someone, praying you find someone, you really need to find someone. I'm like, I'm talking to someone. Oh, tell me about it. I'm like, great, I just opened up a can of worms just to get you to leave me alone, and I made things worse.
Totally opposite effect,
that might be my business line of...
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And if they're pressing me really hard, I'm like, look, I have my core group, my small group that is walking with me through this season of life. They're encouraging me, building me up. So when something progresses and happens, I'll start to let more people know. I just don't want to put any undue pressure right now on the situation.
That's a really good way of putting that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
A lot of what we're saying here is learn to communicate, and communication disarms complication.
Yeah.
That's the tagline of this episode.
There
Communication disarms complication.
Love it.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Look what we did.
Yeah. That's so true. I think this was helpful.
This kind of been fun.
Good. Okay, we did not quite get to everything. So maybe we will. The other point we had was talking about like, don't look too far into the future too soon. And this idea of being maybe hyper intentional or can you be too intentional in dating? So maybe we will talk about that on Patreon.
I think our Patreon peeps need to hear it.
Perfect. We will talk about that there. So guys, we will sign off here until next week. Thank you for being here. We have had a blast and we will catch up with you later. Until then, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Dalton.
And this is Looking for the Middle.